Hey, what's happening? Ward Wrestling Live, man. Happy Labor Day again. We got two shows today. This is the second one, and I am just stoked. I've got Coach Kevin Keeney, uh, just a badass wrestling mind, fight mind in our country. Wrestled at the University of Oregon, uh, coaches at All Face Wrestling Club, and he is the founder and matchmaker of the all-new Wrestling Underground on the UFC Fight Pass. If you didn't watch it this weekend, you better get on it. Go watch the reruns. It was so awesome. But we got him here today with us. Coach Kevin Keeney, man, thank you so much for coming on. It's an absolute honor to have you. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, it's been an absolute pleasure. And I know that it seems like COVID has affected the entire world except for in the cage. It seems like you guys at the UFC and who are involved with it have been able to keep some fighting going. And, it's been great to keep us in the public sane. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Yeah, we've been doing our best we can to keep things going. We got another show called Submission Underground, which caters to the grappling world, and we've kept that going through the COVID time. And we're also doing the Wrestling Underground now. But it has been tough. We do an MMA show as well, an amateur MMA show, and that's governed by the Oregon State Police here in Oregon. So that's been shut down. We can't get any events sanctioned for that, but luckily they don't sanction grappling or wrestling. So
it's been great, and I think for young men and women in the sport that are aspiring to be on that type of show, to see that you guys are saying, hey, yeah, there's COVID, but we're still finding a way to put this on. It gives them inspiration, I think, and that's all a young man or woman needs to stay motivated, I think.
Yeah, and from our end, and especially with my partner Chael Sonnen, we're just really big on honoring our word, and we told the UFC we were putting on these shows, and we found a way to do
it. and I got to tell you, I mean, first of all, what an awesome show. I mean, talk a little bit about it. So where did this come from? I know you've been involved in MMA and you have different fight shows, and this is what you do. But this Wrestling Underground is pretty original, and it was awesome to me. But where did it come from? Where did the idea come from? And how did you finally get them to say yes?
Well, and them, are you meaning the UFC?
Yeah, because you brought it to, I mean, that's huge, right? It wasn't like you didn't go to like Johnny's video shop and have them put it in their gym. Like, you took it right to the show.
Right. Well, here's how it came down. We've been in this COVID era. I'm a wrestling coach. We're not going to any tournaments. I love watching high level wrestling. There's just nothing going on. And then finally, Flo does Chamizo Day. And I'm like, man, there's something here. Like, people want to see wrestling. And you watch the NCAA championships, the viewership is off the charts on ESPN. And so I just knew there was something there. So I would run it by Chael, and he kind of hem and haw a little bit. And I was always talking about a wrestling man. I wasn't talking about the cage. And then we had a Submission Underground on July 12th. And either that night or the very next morning, I don't know which one it was, but a very, very prominent person in the wrestling community, but I want to, out of respect for him, I'll keep his name private. He reached out to Chael. He goes, listen, you guys should do this. And it was like the biggest convincer to Chael that, okay, let's try this. And when he came to me with it, I'm like, yeah, we're trying it for sure. But the whole point is, we're just going to do it in the cage. Let's be different. Let's do it in a cage. And that's just who we are. Everything we've ever done is in a cage. MMA's in the cage. Grappling's in the cage. Why would we do anything different? And we're going to try to put it on UFC Fight Pass. It just made sense. And so that's what came about it, and we took it to Fight Pass and said, hey, we'd like to put this on. And they said, hey, let's try it. Let's make it happen. Let's try it. So that's where we're at.
Yeah, and I love it. I think, excuse me, and I know you and I spoke a little bit before we came on the air, but it just worked so well. Two reasons. We got to see wrestling, and then it was different because it was in a cage. So, I wasn't sure if they were folk styling, freestyling, rolling, coming down the cage. I mean, I didn't know when the ref would stand him up, when they wouldn't stand him up. So it was all, we'll talk about, I'll ask you kind of what the rules and the styles are, but then you've got a guy with such a big personality calling the fights and talking about the fights. We've seen some wrestling go on, and nothing against wrestling on the rooftop or the flow thing or whatever we've seen. It's been great. It's been fantastic to have wrestling, but none of them have the personality of a Sonnen, and just him bringing it and the wrestling is just unbelievable. So I mean that was awesome, and you had to be very pleased with the first showing.
Yeah, we were pumped. I mean, there was a real big buzz after the show that we took as being real positive. People for the most part seem to really like it. I mean, everybody can find a complaint here or there, but we were excited and we're pumped to try to do the second one. We told these fighters, these wrestlers, we said, listen, guys, Chael and I have the longest running MMA organization in the world, second to the UFC. And we have the platform, we're on Fight Pass, and we have the best self-promoter in the world since Muhammad Ali and Chael Sonnen. So we're like, guys, we have everything in place and we know what we're doing. You guys got to go out there and you have to do your job. This will be a one and done if you guys don't do your job. And I think without a doubt, those wrestlers went out and did their job Sunday, August 30th. I mean, it was some of the best wrestling I've seen.
Yeah, and I'm sure as you go forward, there'll be different things incorporated. There'll be match of the night bonuses and everything to make the fighters kind of get that bigger fire in their belly, right? To bring it.
Sure.
But it was definitely neat to watch. But what are the styles? What are the rules? What kind of goes on in that cage? What did you guys adjust to make different? Because there is no out of bounds, there is no thick line, there is none of that.
Yeah, so we're trying to go to as close to freestyle rules or Greco-Roman, depending on what match, who's wrestling, as possible. That's our goal. Obviously, there are some things we have to adjust because there's no out of bounds and stuff. But again, we're trying to go to as close as possible. So like one of the big things I thought was a big thing was instead of having like an approximate 30-second break between rounds, we're doing a minute break between rounds just to allow some, time for people to get in the cage, give them water, give them a towel to wipe off. There's just the whole movement of, the time it takes to get in and out of the cage. We're not just right mat side. So we gave them a little longer break. There's some rules with the cage, and it's a lot like MMA. You can't grab the cage. So let's say, Dan, you had me in a double leg and my back's up against the cage and you go to pick me up and take me down and I grab the cage to prevent the takedown. Well, the referee's job there in that situation would be to point at the cage, almost like you would point at a leg foul in Greco. Exactly like that, actually. You point at it, but he's going to let you try to continue to get the takedown. And if you get the takedown, you're going to get the points for the takedown, and I'm going to receive a caution, and you're going to receive 2 more points because I grabbed the cage in a defensive manner. And then on the flip side, and you will very rarely ever see this, but on the flip side, if you're on the offense and I'm trying to get off the cage and you grab the cage to hold me in a position against the cage, that's going to get broke and we're going to restart and you're going to get a warning. And then anytime after that, you would get a caution and I would get 1 point. So it'd be like an offensive leg foul in Greco, how that's kind of awarded now.
Yeah, and you saw like the Shakur Rasheed and the Brooks match. You saw like where Brooks really figured out how to use the cage, and it kind of helped him come back and win that match. And he used it to his advantage, his back up against it. He was really taking advantage. Now, correct if I'm wrong, I saw where they could only get a towel at the break and wipe themselves down and water, but there was no coaching. Or was the coaching coming in from the outside of the cage?
There was no coaching because of COVID. We're trying to put as few people in the arena as possible, and there's only about maybe 6-7 people in there with all the video crew and the timekeeper and everything. I mean, it's really small. Like Chael's, He's not even in the building. He's in a separate area. So with the COVID situation here out in Oregon, they got pretty strict restrictions. We have to do everything we can to make sure we're following those guidelines, and we're doing that. What's interesting that you mentioned about the Shakur Rasheed Brooks match was Tom Brands, Brooks's coach, was the only guy who reached out to me with many questions on just rule clarification so they could train specifically for the rule set. And he had a lot of questions about, you know, pushing a guy against the cage, getting against the cage, using it to their advantage type stuff. So I find that interesting hindsight, because Brooks really did a really well job of wrestling with the cage as an advantage.
Yeah, because he went down 4-0 pretty quick.
Yeah.
It looked like Shakur had control of the match. It looked like he was shooting the legs and doing what he had to do. And then Brooks kind of started to use that stuff to his advantage. And well, the rest was history. But I know I only spoke to Shakur, and he's excited about the next opportunity to be on your show. So, I mean, that was really fun. So, you know, obviously you brought in Sonnen. I didn't realize you guys have been business partners in other adventures for years and years, but talk about your relationship with him. I know I read some articles that goes all the way back to college.
So there's a very famous wrestling club in Oregon called Peninsula Wrestling Club, coached by Roy Pittman. And I believe I started going to Peninsula pretty consistently, like 7th grade. And Chael, who was a year behind me, he grew up in the club. He'd been going probably since about 7, 8 years old. Well, anyhow, I was at practice, and I was quite a bit bigger at this time when I was like 7th grade than he was as a 6th grader. But I was at practice, and I was doing my stretching out, getting ready for practice like we were told to. And some little kid jumps on my back and it's like choking me out and won't leave me alone. And I'm getting nervous because I'm the new guy and I don't want to get in trouble in practice. That's the first time I'd ever met Chael. And we grew up, you know, for a number of years in Peninsula Wrestling Club. He went to Westland High School. I went to Canby. They're about 8 miles apart. They're big rivals for wrestling at the time. And then we just grew up together. And then I went to college. So when I was a freshman in college, he was a senior in high school. And then he decided to go to BYU, but he wasn't Mormon, so it didn't work out too well for him. He wanted to get out of there. He's a pretty devout Catholic, so he got out of there, and he transferred to the University of Oregon, and he moved in with me and our other roommate Jesse Culp, and so we lived together for the rest of my college career. And then he was there for a little bit longer because he was a year younger and he took an Olympic redshirt year and things like that. But yeah, we've just known each other for a long time. And then when we got out of college, we talked about doing some promotion business, and his dad got behind us and supported us and got involved as well. And it's just kind of where we've been ever since. In fact, that cage that we've used for the last 20 years was built in the parking lot of his dad's plumbing shop.
The one that we just saw?
Yeah, we've used it for the last 20 years, and it was built. A guy just designed it. One of his workers designed it, welded it, built the whole thing out in the middle of their parking lot for Christian plumbing.
And it's been there ever since.
We've used it ever since. Yep.
That's some good quality there, huh?
There you go. Yeah,
man, that's great. So you guys go way back.
Yeah.
I saw you guys have been fighting for years for that wrestling program. I know it left in 2009, right? Did I read that right?
I think it was 2007, around there. Yeah.
And does it look like it's coming back?
No, I mean, I haven't seen anything on the horizon that indicates that. But you know, I think if there was some people that could get together a real foundation and say, hey, we're going to bring back women's and men's wrestling to the University of Oregon. You know, I know the University of Oregon likes to be on the forefront of change and diversity and things like that. So I think, you know, if there was a huge women's wrestling movement to be at the University of Oregon and kind of make it like one of the first Division I wrestling schools for women, I could see I could see Nike getting behind that, and Nike's a big indicator of what's going to happen at the University of Oregon. So
Yeah, the coolest uniforms in college football, right?
well, that's what they say. I've been bitter ever since they dropped the wrestling program. So
So
I
you're an Oregon State fan, right?
I enjoy watching Oregon football, but I'm happy to root against them if I have a reason to.
I like it. Um, not only are you involved in the fight promotion game, but you also have your own club. You've had it for years, All Phase Wrestling over there in West Lynn. And I was reading a great story about a young lady that's really emerging onto the world platform. She's done some amazing things already in her youth, and she's still in high school. Destiny Rodriguez, she's really getting out there and man, kicking life's ass already and doing big things. Talk about her and what do we expect to see from her in the future?
The thing I love about Destiny, and she's just remarkable. I mean, she won a U15 World Championship. I think she pinned everybody in her girls wrestling season this year for the high school season as a freshman. She went to some college opens and smashed everybody at the college opens. So, I mean, she's really something special. The thing I love about her, though, she runs towards competition. Like, she sees the big picture. And that what I mean by that is, a lot of people, it's all about getting their hand raised. And that's all fine and dandy, but maybe getting your hand raised or doing something now to make sure you get your hand raised now is not what's going to help you most achieve your ultimate, your very best wrestling in the future. And so we just went to a tournament in Utah about a month ago, and she purposely went up in weight to wrestle a gal from, I believe it was Colorado, who was awesome. I mean, this girl beat her in all three styles. And they had 3 matches, beat her in all 3 styles. But I can tell you that because Destiny did that and went and wrestled this other girl, it's going to make her a better wrestler in the long run. So, that's the thing I'm so impressed by her right now is for how young she is. She just trusts her coaches and gets the big picture of, hey, it's okay to run towards competition, not away. It's okay to go wrestle the best now so you can get that feel, and it's just going to make you better and want to work harder.
So, yeah. And since I started this platform, I've talked to many men and women, and they tell me that the next wave of girls coming up are just absolutely on fire. And it sounds like she's one of them leading the way. So, do you see that too out in Oregon and when you're traveling that this next wave of young girls is really going to take the world by storm?
The women's wrestling is unbelievable how much it's improved in the last, I don't know, 5 years. I mean, it's just incredible what I'm seeing from younger women when they're wrestling. When I first got out of college, I got out of college in 99. So kind of in that early 2000s, there was a girl coming through Oregon named Natasha Umamoto. And she was she was winning everything there was to win for women's wrestling. And now we have her in Oregon as our women's director. And she also now coaches at our wrestling club. And it's because of people like her that are was so talented herself and follows the sport so closely and stays up to date on the highest level technique. That's why I think we see these girls performing so remarkably at such a young age. And it's not just necessarily, who's winning or getting their hand raised, but how they're winning. I mean, their technique, their strategies are just incredible.
The best is you ask them, like, what's your favorite tournament? And they always say, well, the one where I beat all the boys.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they always, I've talked to a few of them, whether it's Iowa or Texas or Florida, they say the same thing. And it's pretty cool. And, getting back to your WUG, I'm sure we're going to see a number 2 come in here, hopefully shortly. And I hope it becomes like Friday night fights and we get to see one weekly or bi-weekly. Is there I was talking to somebody and I said, I know there's women on the pro level and whatever, there's negotiations that have to happen and pay and all that stuff and whatever. But as far as getting younger names out in the public eye, so now they have somebody to follow. So by the time they get to college or the world level, they've become promoted or become a name. Are you allowed to, let's say you wanted to have like a type of who's number one thing? Could you have like a Destiny Rodriguez and I don't know, an Emma Bruntiel out in Iowa or wherever? Could you have young ladies like that come in, or young prep stars come in and be on your card, or is there some sort of like no? Does that make sense?
No, we could do that. We could do that for sure. And we actually tried to do it. We tried to do Lenny Pinto, I think it was his name, versus Rylan Rogers. And now that is now going to happen at Who's Number One. We tried to do that match, and then we had there's a stud out here in Oregon named James Rowley. We tried to get him to wrestle. Kale Valencia. So we tried to do some high school matches. What happened was the NCAA has a rule right now where college coaches, there's some sort of, I can't remember what it's called, but some sort of period where they can't be in the same arena as high school athletes because it's a recruiting violation.
Yeah.
And they keep pushing this out and pushing it out because of COVID. For some reason, COVID's caused them to keep extending this deadline. And so we had some of these guys that were competing on our card that are also college coaches. And so we had to remove the high school athletes for that specific reason because, we didn't want the college coaches were like, hey, I want to compete on the card, but I can't compete if I'm going to cost a recruiting violation to my school. So that's why we removed them. But yeah, in the future, we're all for promoting younger wrestlers and stuff.
David Pierce just wrote, it's called A Dead Period.
There you go.
Yeah. Thank you, David. Appreciate you shouting this out there. But yeah, because I think it would be pretty neat. I mean, because, like the Fargos and the Super 32s, from what I've learned over the last few years of being in it, when those you start to hear those young names at that level. And then of course, by the time they get to the shows, whether it's NCAAs or whatever, you're like, hey, I remember hearing about that person or that girl. So yeah, to see them on TV in front of the big screen, that's going to be neat. And I know if I was a young kid in high school, how awesome would it be to be on something like that? That would be cool. Richard Jensen just shouted you out. Boom. Be a champion in life. What's up, Rich, man? Great book. Hey, if you haven't gotten Richard Jensen's book, it's a hell of a book. I've read it. Good stuff. But anyway, we will tell us, will we continue to see WG? How's it work? How big can it become? Can it become something that can be that, everybody's been looking for a pro place for us to say this is pro wrestling? Could this come to that?
Well, I don't have a lot of answers for you right now. Is there going to be a Wrestling Underground 2? I would say the answer is yes. When that's going to happen? We're in some negotiations right now, and so we'll see. The sooner the better. Our company thinks, but again, we got to make sure we're doing things right for us and doing things right for the wrestling world. To answer that second question, could this be something that you see a lot more often? I think a big thing because of the platform we can put it on with UFC Fight Pass and stuff, I think that's good for wrestling. And I think that if we can continue to have that show there and show the world, it's going to become more popular. I think it's going to become more popular. So I think we're going to see more of it for sure. But again, I just don't have a lot of answers for you of when the next date is and how often. I do think down the road, maybe Wrestling Underground's like the next Monday Night Raw. Like you watch it every Monday night for an hour show or something. I think the wrestling world's ready for that, especially in this COVID era. Now, when there is more wrestling going on and stuff, I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah, it was definitely fun. Loved it. Richard Jensen said, thank you for all you do, Coach Keeney, and thank you for the WUG. So pretty cool there. So yeah, I mean, do you have in your mind like some dream matchups that you'd love to see? Like, so first of all, we heard a bunch of stories. He talked about these Kendall Cross stories and these brand stories, and they were really, really interesting. And you can go ahead and talk about that a little bit. I know you have some really cool stories there to tell us, but also you would hear a Sonnen kind of shout out who he wants, is like his dream matchup. Like when he shouted out Mike Mal and Jared Freire, 2 Olympians, and he's like, man, I want to get them in the cage. I want to do it. I want to make it happen. Like, is this like, do you guys sit in like a locked room at a bar and have beers and just yell matchups out and throw them up against the wall and say, Seth Gross and Spencer Lee, do it, make it happen? Like, what?
Well, it usually, something pops in one of our heads, or somebody gives us a tip or something, and then we'll text each other and talk about the matchup, or see if we like it or not. But I mean, we talk almost every time we talk wrestling. I mean, we love wrestling. But Jared Freier's in. Jared Freier said he's competing in Wrestling Underground, so we got to find him an opponent. Now, I haven't ever caved to Frank Molinaro and asked him if he wanted to take on Jared Freier. But I think if the price was right for Frank, I don't think he'd back down from anybody. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, these are dream matchups. We got some other, we got some matchups in the works for Wrestling Underground too, whenever that date occurs, that I think the wrestling world's going to like for sure. The Kendall Cross Terry Brands thing, I mean, the only traction it got there was Chael and I. I mean, we were so excited to try to make that happen. We wanted to make that happen, but it didn't get any traction. Kendall responded, was very polite, was honored that we would even think that would have any interest anymore. But he said he was done. And Terry Brands, he just didn't respond at all. But I gave Sammy Brooks a hard time about that. We were in the hospitality tent after the event, and I said, hey, I reached out to your coach Terry, and he didn't get back to me. And he goes, well, if it means anything to you, he never gets back to me either until like 3 a.m. when he wakes up. And I go, oh, okay, well, maybe he didn't want to bother me at 3 a.m. So.
Yeah, that's his life cycle, right? 3 a.m.
Yeah, exactly.
Or something. Yeah, I mean, it was, I could just imagine you guys sitting in a room, and you guys over the years have probably written down a bunch of cool matches you see. And I guess there's a lot of things that can go into it. The rivalries of Penn State, Ohio State, Iowa, whatever, right? I mean, you can really start to turn this into a little shit talking too, right?
Sure, absolutely.
I'm sure all you'd have to do is turn the switch on for that guy. He'll start throwing some stuff. But I see.
Well, have you followed since the last show the Tyler Berger, Anthony Ashnell jabs? They're going at it really good on social media. We'd love to make that matchup happen.
Yeah, I've seen a few of them on Twitter, and it's been real interesting. Yeah, hey, let's see him do it. I think Ashnell had some choice words back to him, but I see on the on the corners there was this big thing called cheese choppers, and you can see it in our our picture there. What the heck is a cheese chopper? So
I'm just going to start at the beginning. So when Chael and I started our company, Cage Promotions, we also had this wrestling club, All Phase Wrestling Club. So this is probably like 2003 or 4. We just needed some help, and it was just some small things. Well, we had this kid in our club at the time. He was probably like 11, 12. But he just kind of was real mature for his age as far as socially and intellectually. So we said, well, let's bring Tate on. His name's Tate Conan. Let's bring Tate on. And so Tate has been working for us since 2004. And he's a grown man. He's doing very successful lumber broking. Well, he started this thing called the cheese chopper. And basically what it is you put your block of cheese in this container, and then it has a little thing that pushes the cheese out, and it's like a guillotine type deal. Like you just go down and slice your cheese, and it makes perfect slices. Then you can change it out from like a knife to like a grater. So it grades your cheese. You don't have to worry about like scraping your fingers or anything. It grades your cheese. And then you can even have like for soft cheese, like a little thin wire thing, and it slices it. Anyhow, the reason why, he started this cheese chopper, he's trying to make it go. He put up some money to put that out there on the cage, but tomorrow Tate leaves for Las Vegas to be quarantined for 8 days, and then he's going on Shark Tank. And so
with the cheese grater.
So he's with the cheese chopper. So he's pretty pumped to try to strike a deal with one of those celebrities out there and make this cheese chopper go big time.
Oh man, how cool is that?
It's great. And if there's anybody that can do it, it's Tate. Tate does everything people think he can't do.
I like it. I like it a lot. Man, it's been an honor to meet you, sir. I really appreciate you saying yes and coming on. And, I'm just, this 44-year-old just trying to have a voice. And I wanted to start something. And then to get to the point where I have guys like you on has been just amazing, and getting to meet the wrestling community and seeing the fight community. But watching the WUG, and it was fun. And I'm glad I reached out, and for a guy, at your level to say yes to me, that's just thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks for reaching out. I appreciate it.
For sure. But we're not done yet, because I got my 10 questions. Are you ready?
Okay, go ahead.
All right. The Oregon Zoo or Oaks Amus Park? Oaks Amusement Park. Hey, I should wear my glasses when I write this down. Oaks Amusement Park.
I would say the Oregon Zoo.
All right. So are we going fried chicken or Vietnamese wings?
Fried chicken.
The Shanghai tunnels or the Japanese gardens?
The Shanghai tunnels.
It seems like donuts or ice cream. It seems like donuts and ice cream are like the desserts of Portland.
Definitely ice cream.
The Keller Fountain Park or Oaks Bottom?
Don't even know what either one of those are.
Yeah, that makes two of us. All right. The Reggie or brisket at Matt's?
Oh, brisket.
Fremont Bridge or the Steel Bridge?
Fremont. Just because I'd have to go over the Fremont to get to wrestling practice as a kid.
It's awesome. These seem like they're popular in Portland. Dumplings or cow mon gris? I totally screwed that up probably, but
dumplings.
Yeah, I guess that's some famous like food truck that goes around Portland.
The
Portland Market or the Vancouver waterfront?
You're going to see more interesting people at the Portland Market.
I bet.
Put it that way.
It seemed like these are two big delicacies: crawfish or mussels?
Crawfish for sure. Fantastic.
Oh man, and when I pulled up seafood restaurants, every other one had some crawfish dish to it. The Asian Vietnamese kind of whatever flair out there has got to be something amazing. Good food, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty popular. It's unfortunate though, with the COVID, I hear about a few of these really famous restaurants going under. So it's pretty sad. No
bueno. We're going to see a lot of, I see a lot of people transitioning their restaurants to a food truck now, where, we saw the food truck scene, but obviously with what's going on, the only way to serve food is on the go right now. So it seems like people are doing it. We're seeing cocktail trucks and beer trucks, and they're all coming out now, huh?
Right. It's real popular.
Well, hey man, again, keep doing your thing, kicking life's ass like you've been doing. And I appreciate you coming on my show, man. Again, it's an honor. I look forward to watching all of your shows and even watching some of your other platforms. I didn't realize Striking Underground was yours as well. I'll be watching that too. And again, thanks, man, from Portland, Oregon. Kevin Keeney, WUG, my man.
Thanks, Danny. You ever get out to Oregon, hit me up.
Yeah, for sure, man. I'd love to. And if you could think of anybody that would be good for this show, Destiny Rodriguez maybe, or
Sure.
anybody at your club, any wrestlers you know, any fighters. I've had some MMA guys on. Feel free to send them my way. Thank you so much.
Okay, Dan, take care.